teachers of Reddit, what is the smartest/most creative way of cheating that you've seen? I'm a high school teacher. But this story is about my own high school math teacher playing us and cheating. It was an honors algebra/geometry class. And it was well known that Mr. D reused the same questions every year. Just changed the numbers. He made a big deal about making sure we all gave our exam papers back to him after we had looked at our scores and gone over everything together to prevent cheating for the next year. Well, of course, some of my classmates got their hands on a complete set of tests from the previous year. Soon, everyone had a set. Before each exam, we would sit together and make sure we knew how to solve every problem on that test so we could do it on the real exam with different numbers. Years later, when I became a teacher myself, I saw Mr. D at a funeral. I confessed to him that this is what we used to do. He smirked and said, "Who do you think leaked the test packet to get you to study?" Mr. D had figured out that kids won't study if the teacher suggests it. But if they think they're getting away with something, they totally will. So he managed to get a test packet out and circulating as contraband. Blew my mind. College physics. Girl with a really intricate tattoo on her leg wrote formulas in between the tattoo lines. Even looking closely you couldn't tell unless you knew what you were looking for. You could tell it was test day because she wore shorts. My girlfriend works for a dental exam company, which are obviously super high stakes exams. Since the exams are worldwide, they have actually found people from one time zone paying people from another time zone to email questions to them right before the exam starts. Not the student but the teacher. So the teacher, let's call him MR, had a reputation for being a phenomenal teacher who had every student engaged/invested in his class. No matter how mundane the subject, anytime he asked a question, every student's hand would shoot in the air with him shouting things like "call on me" or "I know the answer." Simply, MR developed a reputation in the district as one of its best teachers. Fast forward a couple years and I'm grabbing coffee with MR and I ask him, "What's your trick? How did you get every student bought in?" His response, "Well, I told the kids every time we had a visitor in class, I need you all to raise your hand like I was giving away free candy. But if you don't know the answer, raise your left hand. If you do know it, raise your right hand. So I know who to call on and we all look good." Worked like a charm. My exams that used a graphic calculator, TI-84, required us to show the examiners the proof of reset screen before the papers started, so instead of actually studying for my papers, I painstakingly redrew the proof of reset screen pixel by pixel in the TI-84's pixel art program and stored all my notes in it. During a spelling test, "Miss, how do you spell piano?" The spelling word was piano. Teacher went on autopilot and started spelling the word. I was grading a written assignment that had a 1,000 word count minimum, and one particular paper just felt really short to me despite Word telling me it was roughly 1,100 words long. On a hunch I hit CTRL-A and sure enough, after the paper concluded, there was a lot of white nonsense text on a white background. My sister-in-law is a teaching assistant at her kid's school. Her youngest daughter, my niece, was 7 at the time. She stole the test the night before, pretended it was homework and had her mom help her with her homework, then sneaked the answers into the test. One of the other kids caught her, let the teacher know, and my SIL, who was overseeing test conditions, died inside when she realized it was the homework sheet that she'd filled out. I was a top for anatomy and physiology. The professor would ask for me to sit in on finals to prevent cheating. One kid came in with a vitamin water. No worries. Halfway through the test, the professor noticed they kept turning the bottle and squinting. This goes on for another 20 minutes. Professor goes up, grabs the vitamin water bottle and rips off the label. It had a crib sheet written on the back. The students had gone to the effort to make a fake vitamin water bottle label and write notes in the back. The professor was impressed by the creativity and decided to give the student a 0 and not report them to the academic committee. A classmate was printing the answers on his paper in a very pale gray so that it barely can be seen. Still got caught because the teacher noticed him reading an empty sheet. Stretch a rubber band around a textbook. Write whatever you want on it. Then when you take it off the textbook, it'll just look like scribble until you stretch it to see what's written. Spanish conjugations drove me to do some incredibly unethical things. High school kids recreated a Snapple label where the nutrition panel on the back had all the answers, formulas, etc. Only got caught because I'd never seen the flavor before and wanted to see how much sugar was in it. As a student, I remember when my entire year level was accused of cheating. As the test results came back consistently high, what the teachers failed to realize was that some of the answers were actually hidden in other questions. So if you got stuck on one question, you could find the answer later on in another question. An example would be, this was a Japanese language test, what does \_______ word mean, and later on, a question would use that word in context, so you would understand what that word meant. Used a text file on one of the original iPods. Teacher was fine with listening to music during tests. Made my life so much easier, LOL. My teacher shared with us a story about how since she allowed eating during her tests, one person pulled out a giant bag of M&Ms and ate a specific color corresponding to A/B/C/D. It was a two-student duo and they only got caught when another student ratted them out. In high school I was in a computer-based learning program and our science tests were taken digitally. However, they used a program where once you entered the test your entire screen was locked into the test and the only way to exit it was to click the finished button on the test or turn off your computer, which effectively did the same thing. Another feature of the program was that once you were in a test, anything you had in your clipboard, copied text, was not able to be pasted into the answer sections on the test to prevent the only other way to cheat. However, after creating my own classroom at home, making fake tests and playing with the program to figure out a way to cheat, I realized that it would allow you to copy things from inside the test and paste them elsewhere in this test. The developers of the program also did not take into account the sign-in screen where you have to find the test and enter it. Long story short, I could copy my entire page of notes I had taken on the test material, paste it into the section where I would enter my login information, then recopy it, enter the test and paste it again in one of the answer sections, using it to answer every question and then deleting it before clicking finish. A classmate broke the screen and keyboard of his calculator and hid his cell phone in it, so it couldn't be seen from the teacher's position. The teacher approached him from behind and caught him though. I passed a pop quiz in high school by looking across the room and focusing on the top of the smart girl's pencil and trying to decipher if she wrote A, B, C or D after the teacher asked each question. It actually turned out more successful than I thought it would. Writing down math formulas and putting them in the instructions insert of the calculator. More recently, kids will put the answers on their smart watches. It's to the point where I make all students remove their watches and place them on the classroom counter before the test starts. I remember in middle school we would rely on the one kid who actually studied. Most of the quizzes our teachers gave was multiple choice, so if the answer was A, the kid would cough. If the answer was B, he would sniffle. If the answer was C, he would sigh, and if the answer was D, he would stretch in his seat. Everyone in my science class was eventually that kid. Every time there was a quiz, a different person in the class would study. During a keyboard harmony lab exam, a room with 28 keyboards, one devious student had previously recorded another student's perfect performance of the exam piece on MIDI. The cheater played the recorded piece on MIDI, but used all the right hand motions on his keyboard at the back of the room to try to fool me that he was actually playing it in real time. Unfortunately for him, the student he recorded happened to be my piano student, and I recognized the distinctive playing immediately. I didn't embarrass him during class by calling him out on it, but dealt with the problem privately, a lesson he told me later that would stay with him for the remainder of his life. I was supervising a final chemistry exam along with another coworker. Not 15 minutes in, a hand slams down on a desk and I turn around expecting the worst. only to see my coworker angrily shouting at a pair of really frightened 10th graders whose desk he smashed. Amidst the shouting, I caught the words, "Morse code." The guy proceeded to take them to the office. I called a hallway supervisor to take over and ran after the group. Apparently, the kids were silently tapping the answers amongst themselves in Morse code. Not even with their fingernails. Just their fingertips. I never heard a thing. My coworker happened to catch B in Morse code or something. I honestly thought he finally went crazy solely because of his appearance. Picture Robin Williams in Jumanji going, "What year is it?" I'm 100% sure that if this coworker weren't in the room, they'd have gotten away with it for sure. I had summaries of chemistry and a load of math formulas on my graphic calculator, TI-83, and I had a backup on a thumb drive so that I could put it back after a mandatory reset. I used my programmable calculator to write a program for every possible math/physics question that gave me every step of the problem-solving sequence along the way. They always said, "Show your work." I can name the worst. And I've definitely shared it before. But it wasn't my student. It was a friend's. She'd downloaded a worksheet for the kids to do while she was in a meeting of some sort. Kids found the worksheet's answer sheet online and proceeded to copy the answers. Last answer said student responses will vary. And that's what one kid wrote as his answer. Other times you'll see one kid misspells something or gets an answer wrong. And everyone who copied from him has the same error. If OP is a student crowdsourcing cheating strategies, then this is one of the most creative ways of cheating that I've seen. Not a teacher, but I used to lightly write the answers on a desk before the test with pencil. If someone calls you out on it before the test, then you claim that you using the write the material down method of studying and didn't notice that it was marking the desk. After using the necessary material, you just rub the pencil marks off of the desk, thus destroying the evidence. Not sure if this would work anymore. But if I had a paper to write on a book I didn't read, I would find a well-written paper online. Then translate the entire thing from English to German, German to French, French to Spanish, then Spanish back to English. Pull the original paper and the new one up side by side and clean up the grammar on the new paper, and you've got the same concept, but written just different enough to not be plagiarism. Worked like a charm.